British boxing champion Anthony Joshua is recovering after being involved in a deadly car crash in Nigeria. Local authorities say Joshua sustained minor bruising in Monday's crash. The crash comes just days after Joshua won a big match against Jake Paul.
Grimacing in pain, Anthony Joshua is pulled from the wreckage of a crumpled SUV, having narrowly escaped death.
So here's what just crashed down, and it's completely wild. Jake Paul is now sitting with federal agents after his name got connected to the devastating car wreck that nearly killed Anthony Joshua. The boxing world is absolutely going insane right now. We're talking mere days after Joshua obliterated him in that fight. Then suddenly, this catastrophic accident in Nigeria takes out 2 people from Joshua's inner circle. Now Jake Paul is facing federal questioning while they investigate what really went down, because when you have a world champion who survives while his closest allies die, and the fighter who just got embarrassed ends up under federal scrutiny, that's way beyond coincidence territory. That's the kind of connection everyone's afraid to discuss.
Former world heavyweight champion visibly in pain as he is helped from the wreckage after this horror crash that killed 2 people. Anthony Joshua was injured and taken to hospital.
What started as a relaxed victory celebration after the match became pure nightmare fuel. Deep into the night, this high-end SUV carrying Joshua and his crew just gets completely destroyed. 1 second they're all celebrating, sharing videos, laughing like they rule everything. The next moment, there are bodies spread across the road and sirens cutting through the darkness.
He was travelling in, hit a stationary truck on a busy highway in Nigeria. The British boxer is on holiday in Africa following his win over American boxer Jake Paul.
Now here's what's really getting under people's skin. Joshua was just sitting passenger seat. The vehicle was premium grade, and everyone inside that car knew this path like their own neighborhood. Everything seemed totally controlled, just standard travel for people who've made this journey countless times before. Then it just erupted into fatal mayhem without warning. Authorities keep mentioning high speeds and control loss, but the information keeps coming out in strange pieces, leaving these enormous gaps that feel really unsettling. Those empty spaces just allow the conspiracies to grow in the silent.
Photos that have emerged online that show him sitting behind the driver's seat with his top off, surrounded with glass, broken glass.
That's precisely when social media completely went nuclear. You've got this global icon who barely gets a scratch while 2 dedicated people die on impact. And this entire situation happens immediately following a devastating public fight that crushed pride and threatened millions in future earnings. People quit seeing this as some random tragedy and start sensing something deeply wrong happening. The scheduling feels impossibly convenient, hidden behind these careful official responses, wrapped in questions that nobody wants to confront directly.
The crash happened on December 29, 2025, on the Lagos-Ibadan motorway near Makun in Ogun State, a stretch of road known for deadly accidents.
It'd be crazy if all of the fighters who fight Jake Paul end up befalling some sort of terrible tragedy.
Then this single statement surfaced that flipped everything inside out right during all this madness. Jake Paul allegedly mentioned that Joshua didn't follow the arrangement. That one line completely exploded throughout social media like a bomb. Some dismissed it as standard boxing drama, but others detected something far more sinister. Suddenly, nobody's discussing technique anymore. They're dissecting every phrase, every inflection, every moment of timing, attempting to decode what he actually intended.
As news broke, shock rippled through Joshua's hometown community in Nigeria. Adamamala Joshua, the uncle of Anthony Joshua's father, said the news came as a great shock.
Definitely, it was a shock for us. So he has been coming. At least he comes not less than 3-4 times in a year. So that was not the first time of his coming home. So he comes regularly. I applies that road regularly. So they are very conversant with that road. So it was a great shock for us.
That's when everything went completely off the rails. Screenshots began circulating, archived interview segments got resurrected, intense pre-fight confrontations, buried clips, all getting assembled as people attempted to construct some enormous conspiracy that extended far beyond the actual competition itself. Commentators began questioning why that statement even existed, why it emerged at that moment, and why it felt less like promotion and more like real anger seeping through the surface.
It's that of great love for this man, because he's a man of the people. He's very close to the grassroots. It's not the type that goes about with security guard when he comes around. All the people are very close to him, and he too is very free among the people. So it makes.
Once that concept planted itself, the theories didn't just expand, they completely detonated. The accident, the strange quiet, that statement, the flawless timing, everything began merging into this single enormous question dominating social platforms. Was this just mindless rambling from someone whose pride got shattered, or the initial mistake in a conspiracy that was never meant to escape the arena?
Joshua was in Nigeria following his knockout victory over YouTuber turned boxer Jake Paul less than a fortnight ago, who posted online saying he's praying for those who lost their lives and for his former adversary. Joshua posted this on Instagram playing table tennis with Latif Ayodele just hours before the incident.
But this is precisely where logical analysis gets totally consumed by what people believe feels real. When enough strange events keep accumulating around the same individual, chance quits feeling random to everyone observing. Medical crises, financial collapses, reputations getting annihilated instantly. Each incident completely separate when you examine the evidence, but emotionally linked in the same viral narrative everyone's creating. The entire situation quit being about evidence and transformed into this feeling of destiny that social platforms absolutely thrive on.
The car he was travelling in collided with a stationary truck pictured here in photos taken by the authorities. After his latest victory, what should have been a moment of celebration has instead become one of tragedy.
That's the truly frightening aspect, because once people become convinced there's a design, every fresh catastrophe feels like it was already predetermined. Every official statement sounds rehearsed. Every rejection feels too delayed. At that moment, the real evidence doesn't control the narrative anymore. The force does. And that force has already concluded this extends much further than one accident or one match.
Sagamu, which is where Joshua has relatives. Of course, he fought 10 days ago in Miami, and he was heading home to Nigeria, where he was brought up, or he went to boarding school anyway, for the new year.
Immediately following the wreck, something really strange began unfolding. When a worldwide fight creates tens of millions, includes international planning, private protection, electronic agreements, and huge public feuds, any major event linked to it instantly grows much larger than athletics. That's precisely where entertainment ends, and federal departments begin taking notice.
As everybody shouts, Anthony Joshua, I mean, to go there. Everybody just they do picture. So many everybody no shouting, say they no loud down. So some people loud down. Every say they will see star, they no go shout.
Information began circulating about schedules before discussions and business conflicts connected directly to the match outcomes. The type of details fans never witness, but investigators always examined. This wasn't concerning what occurred in the arena anymore. It was concerning everything that happened surrounding the fight, following the last round, and resulting from how it concluded. Once those types of inquiries began emerging, both investigators and industry professionals discovered Jake Paul's identity positioned far too near the sequence for anyone's comfort.
Within hours, social media users revived a bizarre theory, one that has circulated before, now being called the Jake Paul curse.
Now here's where this narrative makes a really dramatic shift into something much more serious. We're discussing finance here, major finance. This match wasn't just show business. It was this enormous economic system of secured payments, achievement rewards, sponsorship agreements, gambling risk, and upcoming deals that totally transformed the moment the closing bell sounded. When one team suffers a huge defeat, that chain reaction turns contractual, and contracts generate tension in areas the audience never witnesses.
That fighters who defeat Jake Paul later suffer serious misfortune. Joshua's crash, coming days after his victory over Paul, reignited the theory and pushed it into viral territory.
Behind closed doors, discussions supposedly shifted from victory celebration directly into crisis management. Sponsors began reconsidering how this appeared for their image. Insurance providers examined their coverage terms, and business associates quietly began wondering whether anything related to this aftermath could damage their own liability. That's precisely when schedules get placed under examination. Personal texts get preserved as proof, and every discussion that occurred away from recording suddenly turns essential.
Wouldn't it be crazy if Mike Tyson almost died before the fight? He had 8 blood transfusions, lost half his blood from a bleeding ulcer in the hospital for weeks. Obviously today, it'd be crazy if Anthony Joshua was involved in a fatal car crash where 2 of his friends...
This clarifies precisely why people quit treating the wreck as some separate disaster. Once financial risks collide with image destruction, coincidences feel much less harmless. That's when the inquiry totally moves away from what occurred in the arena toward who was facing the greatest damages when everything went totally wrong.
Gets into a car accident, 2 people die right after Jake Paul said he didn't follow the script. I'm kind of lost. What script? Was it just boxing, or was there something else going on?
Even following official reports were released, this narrative continued expanding instead of fading away. Video segments, captures, archived interview material, and casual remarks began getting discovered at amazing pace, each fragment getting reinterpreted to match this expanding conspiracy that seemed much bigger than any individual event. Every fresh piece of material just provided more ammunition, extending the sequence in every direction, until the wreck sat directly at the center of something much more enormous. What made this particularly hazardous was how rapidly public sentiment became fixed. Once people determined the chain felt suspicious, every development got processed through complete distrust. Regular explanations seemed false, standard protocols felt manipulated, and remaining silent just made people more interested instead of settling anything down. Social media quit waiting for official responses and began creating their own interpretation immediately.
Little reaction there out of Jake Paul, but when he gets caught with his hands down and his chin served on a platter for that right hand right there. And look at Jake Paul's face. He knew it right away. He said, woo!
Hey guys.
That's precisely when the circumstances moved into genuinely hazardous ground. A narrative driven by force becomes totally resistant to crisis control because force feeds directly from uncertainty. With every moment that passed, the inquiry grew stronger and stronger. How does one match? When reckon one identity remained this linked without something much deeper holding it all connected? At this moment, the concern wasn't just digital anymore. It had entered the business itself. Organizers went totally silent. Following quit making comments. Public personalities who typically comment on every situation suddenly became very cautious with their statements. Or just remained completely quiet because everyone understood the same reality at the precise same moment. Narratives like this don't just disappear quietly. They create lasting harm afterward, even if accusations never get brought.
The Union Jack flag alongside the Nigerian flag when Anthony Joshua cried. He's often spoken so proudly about his Nigerian heritage and his right shoulder. There's often a tattoo of an Africa flag with Nigeria map inscribed in there. So when it comes to Nigeria, Anthony Joshua is very proud of his heritage. He's often seen visiting the country.
Business professionals began concerning about the consequences spreading throughout. Planned matches caught in uncertainty, partnership agreements getting quietly examined, legal groups getting involved early, not because anything got confirmed, but because doubt itself had turned into a commercial risk. In competitive boxing, image can damage much more than losing a match, and currently image is totally destructive. That's why this instant became more significant in the wreck, more significant in the remark, more significant in all the conspiracies, because once a narrative achieves this power level, professions don't wait for official decisions. They respond to current tension, and that tension was already destroying everyone linked to this circumstance, becoming stronger every single moment, whether anyone was prepared to acknowledge it or not.
Comfort, but according to police anyway, they are minor injuries and he is fine. But the family are saying that they are shocked by what's happened. And there was a brief statement, we're hoping for his speedy recovery, they say, and also the people who sadly passed away.
This is precisely where the narrative crossed the boundary from wild theories into authentic conviction. The Jake Paul effect quit being some social media joke and began getting accepted as a genuine principle of reality, repeated so frequently that people discussed it like proven truth. Schedules got linked, identities got gathered, and every single disaster connected to a previous rival got pulled into this one ongoing narrative that seemed impossible to reject. Media producers totally embraced the design. Wouldn't it be crazy if it became this regular beat echoed until chance began feeling deliberate? Health emergencies, economic catastrophes, individual collapses, each circumstance totally separate when you examine the facts, but emotionally fused into one unified story with Jake Paul's identity directly at the core. At that moment, proof quit being important. Momentum gained total authority, and recognition generates complete confidence in digital environments.
Adding that he was praying for Anthony Joshua, the victims, and everyone affected.
Once that conviction structure solidifies, it becomes totally self-perpetuating. Every new story strengthens the myth, every rejection makes doubt deeper, and every instant of quiet gets converted into confirmation. That's when a conspiracy quits requiring any proof whatsoever, because the audience has already determined the design feels genuine, and emotions now defeat reality in current time. Did social media manufacture a plot from real disaster, or did this match trigger a sequence so devastating that even the participants involved are selecting silence over providing any explanations?